Hi everyone, welcome back to the Madeline Makes Bake Off series. This is Festival Week. This is one of those weeks where in a lot of the seasons of Bake Off, there's some consistent themed weeks like Cake Week and Patisserie Week and Dessert Week. And then there are ones that are not consistent throughout each of the seasons, and Festival Week is one of those. In this episode of Bake Off, the different challenges were, so for the signature challenge, Festival Buns. For the technical challenge, it was 12 Sicilian casateles? Casateles? I think that's what it was. And then for the showstopper, it was something called, and I have to look at it here because it's a strange name, Kek Lapis Sarawak. The bakers on the show also had a difficult time with that name. And so it wasn't really difficult to decide which challenge I would be doing for this week, and that is the signature challenge, Festival Buns. In the show, the most common thing made were hot cross buns, which are made at Easter time in the UK, but that is not what I'm making today. Today I will be making conchas, which are, I guess, a Mexican festival bread, but it's a Mexican pan dulce, which is a sweet bread. It's often served at holidays. Dios de los Muertos is where I think it's commonly served, so I wanted to give that a try. I don't know if it would qualify necessarily on the show, I'm not totally sure, but it is yeasted, which is one of the qualifications for the signature challenge, and it's served at a festival, so I think it would work. These are buns that I've seen all over the place. I frequently go to Hispanic markets and they're always in the pan dulce case with a lot of other really delicious looking things. So I'm really excited to give this recipe a try. If you've liked these videos, we're on week 7 now, which is hard to believe, but it's been a lot of fun. If you've enjoyed this series thus far and you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And like I said, if you like this video, then give it a like and let me know down in the comments your thoughts on festival buns. Where are you from? What kind of festival foods do you enjoy? Okay, now let's get started. So I'm gonna heat this up briefly in the microwave. I want it to be warm, not hot, because I don't want it to, kill the yeast when I add that. So I'm gonna heat that up, give the yeast something to munch on. That's how I always look at it when I'm adding sugar to a yeast mixture, because that's what it is. Give that a brief mix. Oh, I love that smell of like yeast blooming. I don't know if that's just a me thing. It sounds gross saying that out loud. Like, yeast blooming is a great smell, but I don't know, I just really like it. It smells nice. So it seems that I should be expecting a crumblier mixture, or a crumbly mixture, which is good that that's what I should be expecting, because so far that is what I have. Ooh, it smells good. That's cinnamon. Yum. So my dough is not crumbly. The recipe I'm following says that it should be, but it's not. It's very much like a cookie mixture, because it says I should knead this now, and maybe I'm short on a little bit of flour. It did advise that since this is a gluten-free recipe, that the dough would kind of have a firm texture. I'm not seeing that either. So I'm just gonna go ahead and knead this, because I have a feeling if this was a normal enriched dough, it would have a similar texture. I've made croissants before. I've made, with regular flour, and I recall a texture similar to this, so I'm not outwardly alarmed. Doughs and breads are tricky for me. I mentioned this in the Bread Week episode. This is an element of gluten-free baking that I really haven't touched, so I'm unfamiliar with the textures and the consistencies that I should be looking for. So I do base this a lot on the research, but I'm a tactile person. I learn by doing. So, I can read about it all I want, but if I'm not doing it, it's gonna be hard for me to retain. So at the very least, it's a learning experience. So this is kind of what we're looking at as a texture right now. It's not totally off. I'm just not sure I'm achieving the right consistency here. This dough seems rather sticky. My understanding of tacky is that it sticks to your hand, but then releases and it doesn't leave a mess on your hands. I am not achieving that texture. So I think I'm gonna do something crazy. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of flour. I know, crazy, but I feel like that's the right move. I think this dough is too sticky. So I think my proportions were a little bit off. Okay, yep. I already feel happy about this decision. I think that 1 spoonful is gonna make a difference. If you can see here, we went from a sticky mixture and we're already at more of a dough ball form. Wow, that's amazing. A spoonful of flour makes the dough form well. That's not how the Mary Poppins song goes, but it's better. But I'm still kind of in that sticky stage. Oh no. We're going rogue. We're adding just a bit more. That did help the texture. It did help it go in the direction that I'm looking for. So I'm feeling a bit more confident now. So adding just a spoonful more. And then I don't think I can add any more confidently. Why did I point? I meant to do a thumbs up. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, yep, that's looking a lot better. Still getting a little bit of stick, but I think it's fine. So I'm gonna cover this with a tea towel and I'm going to put it on my range hood over here with the light on, just to promote a little bit of warmth. I don't have a proving drawer like they do in the tent, so I have to make do with the light from my oven. So I'm gonna try to keep it at a warm temperature. I'm gonna cover it with this fancy tea towel and I'll be back in a couple of hours. I really hope this works out. This is the first time I've ever made gluten-free enriched dough, so we'll see how it goes, but I will be back in a couple of hours. All right, so the bread is just about finished. It has about 20 more minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started on, if you hear a sound, that's our cats having dinner. Beautiful serenade. Anyway, I'm going to make the little cookie that goes on top. So it's not really a cookie, it's basically just a combination of butter and powdered sugar. And that way when it's in the oven and it sits on top of the dough, the butter will melt and it'll fall over the dough and it'll make like a crackly little pattern. It's a quintessential part of Conchas. So the little cookie on top is a really basic, simple sugar cookie. It's a little bit of flour, a little bit of powdered sugar, well actually probably a lot of powdered sugar compared to what you would normally put in a cookie, and then butter and vanilla. So the idea is that the butter will melt and what will be left behind is a nice crispy, crumbly kind of cookie on top. So that's what we're making right now. Okay, so I'm gonna just separate this out into 3 different sections because I'm gonna be doing 3 different flavors. I will be using freeze-dried fruit to give the cookie on top both flavor and color. So I will be using freeze-dried strawberries, freeze-dried mango, and then I'm gonna just use a classic cacao powder to do a chocolate topping. That one's really, really basic. So what I'm gonna do is basically grind down these freeze-dried fruits and make a paste out of them that I will then knead into these balls to infuse the color. Oh, that's so pretty. Oh gosh, that flavor's so strong. Love that. Oh my gosh. Don't breathe that in. Let's work this into a paste. Getting a nice marble effect so far. I don't know how the mango is gonna come across in color, but the flavor's really good. Ooh, that's a nice yellow color. I didn't expect it to be so vibrant. We're getting there. We might have a marble effect for this one as well. It's hard to get the color all throughout. As you can see, compared to these two, it's not as vibrant. I have a feeling this one is going to blend the best because chocolate gets everywhere. Da, 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 da. It turned out pretty well. It did double in size. I was a bit worried that this was going to be a complete bust, but it is not. Always a plus. Okay. Oh my gosh, there's dough flying out. All right, so now I'm just gonna form this into kind of a ball here, work it just a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to separate this into 10 balls by kind of tucking it onto itself. I think our dough texture is a little off. It's feeling sticky and it's certainly not elastic, which you would kind of hope for, but I don't know if that's a mixture problem or just the fact that it's gluten-free. I mean, compared to like the bread we made it on bread week, you know, it was nice and elastic, folded well on itself. We're still kind of feeling sticky and you can tell it's sticking to me. They're certainly not perfect, but I'm finding them quite difficult to shape. Normally with a bread, if you start pulling it, you'll get this stretch and you can pull it under itself and create kind of an elastic, firm top. I'm not having that experience here. If I'm trying to stretch it, it's just tearing. And so I'm just trying to gently form it into a ball. It's a very, very soft dough. So not sure if I should have added even more flour before. Not really sure where I went wrong with the mixture. This is why we do these challenges, so we can learn. I'm not thrilled with the texture. As you can see, ones like this are really cracked. I can't really get that elastic top I'm wanting. Now I'm gonna form these into the little discs that are gonna go on top. And to do that, I'm gonna use one of my favorite kitchen tools. I'll be right back. So I'm gonna be using my trusty tortilla press to form little discs with these. All right, so it says to score it. So I'm assuming that's like this. Take a little bit of egg wash. And I'm just doing the egg wash because I want this to stick. Okay, so these are the conchas now covered with the little cookie that goes on top. They're already starting to rise, and on the ones that are already rising, you can see the splits through the dough. Don't know if that is correct, but these have to rise for about an hour, and then these will be put into the oven. I've been going back and forth on this bake on how confident I'm feeling. It's been a roller coaster. But looking at them now, I'm honestly feeling, dare I say, a little bit confident. They're looking like conchas. I don't know. Well, it's all in the bake. We'll see how it goes, but for now I'm gonna let these rest and prove for another hour, and then we will finally put them in the oven. So it's been an hour, they've risen a little bit. I think they probably should have gotten a little bit bigger, but now I'm going to bake these for 20 minutes. Hey, these don't look half bad. Look at that. Okay. Like I said earlier, I've been kind of going back and forth with this bake on how I feel about how it's going. I am overall really pleased with how these turned out. I would have liked to see, like on these ones, a little bit more of that conch shape. However, that has to do with my scoring. I was worried about cutting them too deep, and it looks like I was supposed to cut all the way through. So that is just baker's error. So no worries about that. They smell really good. All right, so they've cooled for a few minutes. They're still quite warm, but I'm really anxious to try them. They're not the most beautiful conchas I've ever seen. They certainly don't look exactly like the ones at the supermercado. You know what, for a first attempt, they'll do. I do think there was some issues with my dough. I don't really know where or why that is the case, but you know, you live and learn. So I'm trying to decide which flavor to try first, and I think I'm gonna reach for the strawberry. Looks like bread. That is so tasty. I'm glad I have tea right here because this is exactly what I want with tea. It's very bready, it's pretty dry, but my understanding is they are dry. They're meant to be had with coffee or a drink of some kind. The cookie thing on the top is bringing a lot of flavor. I'm surprised by how much flavor is coming through from this. I really get the strawberry. It brings a sweetness to the dough and the whole bite as a whole that I wouldn't expect. It's not overpowering. I think that's because of the strawberry. It's quite tart. I'm a little impressed. They don't look the best, but this is pretty tasty. Granted, I've actually never had a concha, so I actually don't know what they're supposed to taste like. I know they're bready and they're sweet, but I don't really have anything to compare it to. Okay, so we have some varying feedback. The concha expert, more of an expert than me. I've actually never had a concha. I've seen them, I get the general idea of what they are, but I don't really have much to compare to. I think that this is a bit dry. The concha expert, my husband, says that it's not dry at all and that a normal concha is actually much drier. These are fresh out of the oven though. The ones that you get at the supermarket have been sitting in a case, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but I will take that feedback. I know I don't have the judges here. I don't have Paul or Mary or Prue, but I'll take that feedback. You prefer mine? Wow. So I'm really eager to try the mango because I didn't add as much and I don't know if I incorporated it as well. So I'm gonna give it a try, just a small bite because I just wanna get that flavor. Wow, I'm shocked by the amount of flavor that this thin little thing gives us. It's not as strong as the strawberry. The strawberry is just very tart against the sweet, whereas mango is also just sweet. Last but not least, chocolate. Yum. That one's really good. I expected the dough to be more problematic than it is. It has a really good crumb As you can see here, a good structure. It's a bit dense, but I think that's kind of the point of these type of treats. They're meant to be a bit bready, I think is a good way to put it. It's bready, it's sweet. Again, I really see this being chased by something. I'm envisioning tea, but I could see this being enjoyed with really anything. These are still warm, so I think that's why I'm like, tea, warm pastry. So overall, I'm gonna dub this a success. You know, and it's one of those things on the show when you see someone who starts off on a bad foot, or they're like, oh, in practice this wasn't going well, and then they nail it. I don't think I nailed this, but I will say that I was expecting a disaster, and I don't think I ended up with a disaster. I'm honestly blown away by the flavor of this little cracklin on top. I did not expect that to bring as much flavor as it does. If you were to give this to me and say, what does that taste like? I would say strawberry or something tart at least. Brings a lot of flavor. It's not just a hint, which I think the judges on the show would really like, because they're always like, we need more flavor. We need that punch of flavor. There's no winning flavor. No hero flavor, that's what they say, the hero flavor. So I'm really, really pleased with how these turned out. I do wish that I had nailed the look a little more. I was a little bit timid with my scoring. I thought that I was cutting too deep initially, and I was trying not to break the surface. Now seeing the end result, I realized I should have sliced all the way through for each one. Maybe in the future I would slice it or score it when it was already on the dough. That way they were easy to transport and they didn't break. That was kind of my issue. They're delicious. I can't wait to have them for breakfast in the morning, and I need to work on my presentation, as they would say on Bake Off. But the flavor is there, and honestly, I would rather have an ugly bake with good flavor than have the judges in my brain, at least, say it's all style and no substance. Although I do want to get better at style. I do. So anyway, successful bake. Thank you for joining me for Festival Week. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, and if you want to see more of these videos and as I continue on my bake-off journey, then give this channel a subscribe, turn on your notifications, all that YouTuber stuff. And I will see you guys on the next one. You could use our tortilla press for this, but the one we have is a cheap one. So it kind of makes it kind of sploots them out like that, so they don't always end up perfectly round. Oh, mine are a little dry. Don't use your good plates for this.